Welcome to the Compassionate Leader Circle podcast, where we explore what it truly means to lead with love. In a world that's moving faster than ever, this is your space to slow down, reconnect with your purpose, and hear about the kind of leadership that transforms lives and how it can do the same for yours too. Your hosts are me, Daryl Brown, Sarah Feely, and CLC founder Laurel Donnellan. If you're ready to grow, question, and to lead with courage and compassion, you're in the right place.
Welcome, Rick Milenthal, to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you today in a quiet setting because we met at South by Southwest in Austin in a noisy bar, and we connected, I think, through our eyes and heart because we couldn't really hear each other talking. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, we met in a bar. We should be clear, we didn't pick each other up in a bar. It was a planned professional meeting.
It
in
was.
A bar. I had my son. I think you had your nephew. Just so it's out there in the world.
I was interviewing you for Forbes, and we were unaware that we thought we were finding a quiet restaurant, and we found the noisiest, but it was very Austin. It was pretty great.
It was wonderful. It was great meeting you, and just thrilled to talk to you again today.
We have a model that we work with called the Donnellan method. It's my method for leadership. And one of the principles is balance. And the leadership practice is encouraging sustainability. And I am framing our talk around that because of the work that you are doing around mental health in your organization. We're going to get to that in a minute. But why don't we start with the Shipyard? What is the Shipyard, and what do you do every day?
The Shipyard's a marketing services agency. Works in advertising, public relations, digital work. And it's one of the leading what you call independent agencies. Just like many businesses, there's large global corporations, but this business is owned by our leadership together. It's about 500 folks, and we handle really some of the greatest brands across the country. We have a theme: engineering brand love.
I love that theme, and I'm very impressed. I don't know a lot about your company yet, but I'm very impressed. One of the ways I got familiar with your company is one of your colleagues presented at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And I went to see her.
Oh, I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah. And I was fascinated by her presentation, which is around, it was like branding avatars or something like that.
Archetypes. So archetypes is what if you had a personality or a character attached to your brand. And what Lillian Marsh did, who's my colleague, is she took that concept, which has been around for a while, and divided it even to 60 or 70 different archetypes. And she uses that strategy to build brand strategy. So she presented South by Southwest. It was one of the bigger rooms. I was pretty impressed by it. And I'm glad you were there. There was a big line.
I was there, and it was amazing. I went to 9 out of 10 days of South by Southwest. So we haven't talked really since then. I'm curious what you got out of the experience.
That young people are interested in our business and passionate about our business and excited about it. Laurel, like every other business, we've been affected. AI and technology, economic uncertainty. Many of the larger global companies in our business have consolidated, and tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs just within the last year, actually. That's what happens when it's a business in transition. And so there's a lot of stress and anxiety. It's not misplaced. It's existential. Hey, what about my job? And when that happens, you often have young, smart people say, I'm out, I'm not going there. Look what's going on. And it was just full of wonderful 20-somethings that were excited about the future, interested in the future, interested in the business, interested in creativity. interested in what's going to happen and leaning in. I'm sure they all had fun there, but I saw them in every session and very diligent about what they're doing and had a lot of conversations with them. And that was what struck me the most about South by Southwest.
It was definitely motivating, inspiring, and a bit overwhelming because I went to so many sessions.
Yeah, well, you can do too many.
Probably went to too many.
Well, yeah, you need to breathe.
You need to breathe. One of the reasons we got connected for Forbes is the work that you're doing around mental health. So could you tell me the story of why you and the Shipyard shine a light on something so important?
Yeah, I mean, we spend most of our lives marketing food services or insurance and travel and tourism and businesses and industrial. That's what fuels our income. But we had a couple of things happen inside the company. I have a very close business partner who lost his son at 17 years old to suicide. Unspeakable shock. But he and his wife were not in denial. They had been working with their young son for 2-3 years, as he had thoughts. A smart, athletic, good-looking kid, everything going for him, yet, had these challenges, and they knew it, and they loved him for it, and they put every resource to save him, and they couldn't save him. And so what happened was a few things. One, we knew the mental health space was in real flux, very challenged. We knew that one of the issues is, and it's not the same now, this was 2016, when this began on our journey, 17, somewhere around there, which for me doesn't seem that long ago, but these days are. Even back then, and still now, but not as much, there was a lot of stigma in talking about it. I didn't tell his story. It's his story. I didn't tell the story how my wife's father, my father-in-law, in our first year of marriage, committed suicide. You feel like you're burdening people, right? It's our issue. 6 months after that happened, he came to me and said, we said to each other, we got to do something about this. And they were so brave, they wanted to talk about it. And we realized that in what we do, if we were to get involved in a cause, philanthropic, we started our company in 2013, even though I've been in the business for 40 years, but have led a number of agencies. But this agency was young at the time. And so we hadn't matured yet to do a lot outside of our business, getting business. And we felt this is an area where what we do, which is create things, which is words, which is telling stories, mattered in mental health. Words can unite, words can divide, words can inspire, words can demoralize. And so we wouldn't just be working for a cause, what we do actually cures. And so we leaned every resource in our company behind helping in mental health. We helped start a music festival that had wonderful artists in Columbus that tens of thousands of people came to, but the message was around mental health. And my business partner, David, and I would speak on it. And then as we got more engaged at the Ohio State University, they have a wonderful chairman of the department and a good friend of mine who does their strategy. Her name's Holly Caston, and she even helped recruit a chairman of their Department of Psychiatry who had an idea. And the idea is that we can change the trajectory of mental health. And what he noticed is that in cardiac care, there's something called the Framingham study. It was in Framingham, Massachusetts, where you studied generations, started in the late 40s and early 50s, and followed families and learned what's genetic and what's situational, what is from chemistry, what everything we know, cholesterol, stress, smoking, exercise, much of what we know came from the Framingham study. He said, we're going to have a Framingham study like thing for mental health, because mental health is a brain challenge, a brain disease. And so we said, fine, we're going to lean into the entire communications of this. And it's called SOAR, which came from State of Ohio Adversity and Resilience, but really it's SOAR and Mission SOAR. And we are now the communications partner on the seminal study in the world, frankly, which is happening in Ohio, on following thousands of families on these issues for mental health. And that will change mental health for the future, because the reason the space is challenged is, and insurance companies don't insure a lot that can happen. This young man, they would bring him to outpatient and 3 days, or inpatient 3 days, and he's out. They give it back to the parent. They're like, what am I supposed? I'm not the professional, because it's not insured. The only way heart got insured, the only way cancer got insured, is there was research that you understood, outcome.
Better outcomes. Yeah.
It's not because they're bad, but, we can vilify anything. We can vilify insurance companies. We can vilify government. We can vilify. Everybody's doing what they need to do in their space. They need outcomes. They need to know, if we do this, this will result. I can save this person. And if you don't have that, they can't insure it. And so that's what we're doing. Most of it, honestly, Laurel, will not affect while we're alive. I mean, it takes generations. The Framingham study.
It's a longitudinal study, and but they're getting started, which is very exciting.
So we built everything around it. A theme, to bring the greatest minds together to solve the mind's greatest problem. That was a long answer. I hope not too long, but
it's a good answer. It's a good story. And I know from our discussions in the past, you've also brought some things into your leadership and into the culture of your company related to mental health. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we got involved in it because of its cause. Then we began to change our entire structure, what we did for employees as far as getting help when they needed it. We created a culture, hopefully, that people can talk about it. How do you talk with your boss about the fact you may have these challenges? You're not going to do that. It feels like a weakness. I wonder if he or she's going to question me for the future. Is it going to affect my career? So I'm going to keep it inside. If you keep it inside in something you spend so many hours with and your colleagues and such, obviously it'll be even more challenging. And then when there's a situation, because you're responding to that and nobody has an understanding of it, that's actually more challenging. So we fostered, talking about it. If you talked with our folks, they would tell you this is a safe place to deal with my mental health. And sometimes they take breaks, and I'll have to deal with business realities on these, but they know that. They know that. It has turned out to be our highest retention reason, non-financial retention reason, our dedication to mental health. And it's really it's defined us. But when you're in an industry that's creative, frankly, there's more of proclivity to issues of mental health, because you're in a business in which you're creating something, and then you share that thing. And most times, 9 out of 10, someone says, I don't like it.
It's hard to not take it personally.
Well, it's my output, creative. It is personal. Yeah. To say don't take it personally, it's like, just to give them context is good. But, it's a silly thing sometimes to say, don't take it personally. I'm a person.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate culturally we're getting to these conversations. It's more acceptable for example, in sports to take breaks and talk about mental health. It's still pretty rare in business. So what are the other I mean, I guess I know you kind of started this from an ethical standpoint, but other than retention, what are the other business benefits to having a safe place for these conversations?
It comes both with age and this experience that once as a leader of hundreds of people, or if you're a leader of tens of thousands of people, if you're a political leader, if you're a business leader, once you're a leader that can be more vulnerable about yourself, is because you can't ask people to be more vulnerable if you aren't about yourself. You know, once I did that more, which I came to later in life, I was not prophetic about this. And I was a very hard driving person in my 30s and 40s, and, I'm now, I don't mind saying, 66 years old. And I got a lot done, did business, but it was damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I didn't really have an understanding of what was happening around me. I will tell you that doing this, which I thought, okay, I'm going to move some attention from our business. If the business doesn't grow as much, put more attention into this. I'm going to try to lead this way. Our business grew exponentially. My personal success grew many, many, many multiples. My relationship at home with my wife, and children got better. I didn't know that, but that would be the biggest advice I give to business leaders. You will think it's weakness. You will think that it means less success. You will think that this focus diverts you from meeting your business goals. And you may have shareholders that think that, or board members that think that, because they want him or her to, just focus on the business, just focus on customer acquisition. But the fact is, once you can get your head around this with people, your business will grow. Your customers or clients or whoever it is, they feel it. Your employees feel it. And people are amazing what they'll do if they, feel safe. And so I wasn't prophetic about any of that, Laurel. It wasn't any sort of strategy or anything. But it's the biggest learning for me, and it's the biggest learning I'd love to share with anyone listening to this that's, looking at how they expand their business. There's so much information about all the things in strategy and, in business, but I don't hear this a lot. And it really, really will not only matter to you as a human being, it'll matter to you as a business leader. Absolutely.
So one of the many things that intrigues me about you and your business is you told me that, and you just stated that this isn't always the way you operated. You were hard driving, you were focused on the bottom line, all those things that we're taught to be. What changed that? What part of your story changed you into the compassionate leader you are now?
Well, I can hardly call myself the compassionate leader. I'm glad you are. I have, first of all of us every day, we're more compassionate than some days. Anytime you're in business challenges, I think that's another message. There's no mountaintop that you reach as far as this is. I used to travel about maybe over 100 days a week. That was not helpful for my family and my relationship. So the first thing was that when you start to realize what's important to you. Honestly, if you could get right with whoever your partner is in life, in my case, it's a wife of 43 years. It's amazing what happens. So I think it started at home, not in business. When you're young, it's like, I'm doing it for the family and achieving this and such. Yeah, well.
Society is, it's kind of like workaholism is the one addiction that we still say is okay in many ways, and it's not. There's so many costs, Yeah, and I will say, even though my company's called Compassionate Leader Circle, there are days when I am not a compassionate leader, and I have to, find humor in that and pick myself up and apologize for my behavior and go on and try to be better the next day. I think it's good for all of us to just know that we can be compassionate leaders, and we're learning how to be a better leader every day as long as we're learning. I heard a great quote the other day. Nelson Mandela said, "I never lose, I win or learn."
Yeah, that's really excellent. And if you ever, whenever someone asks me that question, who would you like to meet? That passed away, it's Nelson Mandela. I'd love to. But, I like to say, and it's not my quote, don't compare your inside with someone else's outside. So, one message here, wonderful to get a recognition like this. And so, that's a perfect moment, but you're not a perfect person. You're far from it.
Yeah.
And so do not carry, too much challenge personally as you do this journey. Days, every day is different, and it's that way in social services. Look at all the I mean, I'm a business person, but even if you're dedicated to a charity or social service, which you'd think, oh, that's a compassionate leader. Well, you're dealing with funding, you're dealing with issues, you're probably dealing with government policy, people you serve. Sometimes, many times, it feels futile. And so if you feel, oh my gosh, I'm leading the social service, but I'm not having a very compassionate day, just take a breath,
Yeah.
People see your intentions. So don't compare your inside with everyone's perfect outside. It's really in social media where everybody is presented as having the greatest life and the most compassion. And they're so thoughtful because that's what I write. And, your marriage is perfect. Your children are perfect. Everything's perfect.
I'm very interested in an industry that's shrinking in many ways, that you're growing, right? As a company. And I'm interested in your engineering brand love. What does that mean?
Well, I'll answer that in the context. The industry is not shrinking. The industry is actually growing. If you think about all these AI, what we call LLM language platforms, all of them will be fueled by advertising, unfortunately. So if you do Chat GBT or Claude and all, the reason they're worth all this money is advertising. So actually the industry is growing. What's happening is many people are getting displaced through consolidation and such, but the industry itself, and are being displaced. We like to say you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by, if you're a person that doesn't know how to use AI. So that does go to engineering brand love. Engineering is the technology that is only growing in our industry, but you're building a feeling. Brand love, my love, my connection. And what happens is in our industry that so many are so interested in the technology and what's happening with AI and what's happening in targeting and all these things, they kind of forget or they diminish feelings. And we're all fueled by feelings, and we're all fueled by levels of love, frankly, and so engineering, meaning utilize technology to its fullest extent to build brand love, to build love. We like to say building unshakable brands that are designed with feelings, are fueled with feelings, but designed to outperform.
So I like that correction you made. So advertising as a sector is growing.
Yeah, it's going to grow even more. That's the reason all these businesses are valuable. It's advertising, just like what's called search. When you see Google and such, it used to be there were no ads on it. Now it's frankly a terrible experience because there's all ads on it. Social media was supposed to have no ads on it. Well, of course, it's completely fueled by advertising. So these AI platforms
are creating more demand.
They're all created to make a connection that then commerce or advertising will be its way of making money. So it's actually growing.
Even with the technology, are the jobs growing too in the sector? Are there more jobs in advertising, or is that kind of going to balance out or to be determined?
Currently, we're going through a stage of less jobs in advertising, but that happened in each of one of these phases. Long term, it will not be the case. It's a large amount of, and then what is advertising? If I'm doing the technology and I'm building these things, it's tangential advertising. But we're currently going through a big change. And so people are getting displaced, Laura. People are getting displaced. But we are generally growing and generally more stable. I don't know that I want to declare, but we're nimble. We're not one of these large public companies that, have to always look at those short-term financial decisions. And so we can sustain ourselves. That's really the biggest reason.
So what are you looking forward to in your business and with your brands? What are you looking forward to as you look into the future?
So we have these 3 areas in marketing. I hope I don't get too technical. Paid, earned, and owned. So paid is when someone does advertising, whether it's digital, and pay to reach you. Earned is when it's an influencer or public relations. It's called earned because of the stories you tell is the reason someone paid attention, not I paid to reach you. And owned is when you have your own website. You own those assets inside. Our industry is generally separated. There's been great companies in paid and great in earned and great in owned. The future, what we built in our company is the consumer, she doesn't know. The customer, she doesn't know whether she got something paid, earned, or owned. And so it's sort of inside baseball. So even as I explain this, a lot of people listening says, what is he talking about? Because you don't experience it that way. You experience it as messaging and as stories that come to you. And so the future is in our industry, instead of separating those, is bringing those together as one what we'll call campaign or one platform. That's where we built our company. We acquired a bunch of companies that paid the best, that earned the best, and put it into one. But the industry is moving that way, and that means that it's just storytelling, throughout all of these different platforms. And so what I look forward to is that creativity is actually going to expand. We happen to be at a little time when technology is expanding. Well, technology is going to keep expanding, but people are people and they need to be moved. And they're not going to just be moved by something AI created. In the end, humans connect with humans. And so what I look forward to is as we make it through this sort of technology bursting and expansion, we will actually be the beginning of a high level of creativity. It'll just be creativity that's informed by, all the information we have. So instead, it will be a foundation that will fuel us. I think it's going to happen in everything. It's happened in medicine. So some medical professionals will be displaced because they're doing tactical things that AI can do. But the great people in medicine will say, oh my gosh, look at this information I have. I can test, I can go through clinical trials, I can do everything in medicine. It'll happen in social services, which the number of people that you meet are, how can I reach more people? How can I touch more people? But right now, it's a stressful time for a lot of people.
Yeah, we work with a lot of people who are career changers or leaders in businesses where there is a lot of displacement. Mm-hmm. But I went to South by Southwest pretty anti-AI and I left more pro-AI. So I think no matter what your age, there's a lot to learn and bringing, I love this conversation, Rick, because you're bringing a lot of optimism to the conversation. And we already see statistics, advertisements, stories, websites created by AI are not going to touch people without a human element. So
yeah, humans are the name, but think about what you do. You do it both at Forbes and you do it both separately and such, and you do it as CLC, right? Don't you touch more people because of technological changes?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Don't you?
For sure.
I joined a meeting, your award ceremony. We're all from all over the world.
Yeah.
How could that
Yeah.
have happened? How could that never would have happened? We all would have had to fly somewhere to Washington.
Yeah.
Most of us couldn't,
Yeah.
you would have had to plan it 2 years in advance, and then who would be in the audience? Are they going to come? Are they not going to come?
No,
Right?
we're very blessed to be connected. And I grew up with a technologist. My dad was an IBMer and
Oh,
he helped develop the computers for the Apollo program. So he passed away a few years ago, but I know he was smiling down on the new moon exploration. And one of my prized possessions is a little medallion that was created with some of the parts of one of the lunar modules my dad got. So I was brought up by a technologist, and I love technology. And I think we just, as humans, have to remember we're in charge. Like, we get to decide. We get to decide how we use technology. And I also think there should be more government guardrails for back to the discussion of mental health. I'm very concerned about young people and
yeah,
guardrails around social media and things like that. I know there's really good progress being made worldwide. So I'm looking forward to ethical government guardrails.
yeah. Well, I think there will be, but listen, you and I grew up when television was supposed to burn our brains, and before that,
Didn't
radio was, and
it?
that crazy music that the kids are listening to. So, I mean, it will affect people negatively with guardrails. But I just, okay, that example you gave, let's think about it. So I think, I don't want to age you, but I think we're both about 10 years
We're
old.
the same age. I don't
Okay.
mind. I'm
So
proud
10
of
years
my
old.
66.
Yeah. I was a complete nerd for the Apollo. I got the model, and where you put together for the landing, the lunar landing. So I didn't know that about your dad. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. My dad was a school teacher, but at that time he couldn't afford to be a school teacher, and he worked for North American Rockwell, which also produced and created things for Apollos. I was completely enthralled with all of it. I was a complete nerd. So, and I remember the day, they landed and watched it and involved. So let's think about that. Does it matter from a science standpoint that human beings just went up in that ship? I think the answer is no, but it mattered to all of us, right?
Yeah.
It mattered to all of us. And were you riveted? I won't put you on the spot. Watching the capsule in the ocean and waiting for the people to come out of that door. Sat there and watched it for an hour. I wanted to see real time the people come out.
Yeah.
And then they wait. And then they went this. And that's what we were inspired, but we probably didn't even need people to do that research. I mean, probably most of it, but people.
Neil deGrasse Tyson and others have said this, and a lot of technology that we have, medical technology, sports technology, came from the science related to
That's right.
the Apollo program, right? So I'm pro science. It's kind of funny though. I wasn't because it was part of my everyday, and my father was working on the Apollo program every day, and I was hearing about it every day. It probably wasn't as exciting to me when I was 9 as it is now. Like, I'm a nerd. I came to being a nerd late in life because I think I resisted. It's like, oh, to me, it was very kind of like, my father kept us up all night and we had to watch it. And I probably didn't appreciate it when I was 9, but I do appreciate it now.
I just had an epiphany about it as you were talking. What was going on in 69 and 70? We think we live in an age that, we've never had challenges like that. 69 and 70, the country was pretty split up, yet everyone unified around us, and everyone in the world unified to watch these astronauts, even with all the challenges going on.
Technology human connection, right? Like, we were all doing the same thing at the same time. It was really kind of a religious experience for the world in a way.
It was. I think it was a religious experience.
We need more of that, I think. But yeah, I remember I was 8 years old and both of my grandmothers died. I was very close to them. and Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was 8 years old and I was telling my mom, this is the worst year of my life.
I thought everybody got assassinated.
Yeah.
I thought everybody got killed. JFK when we were kids, babies, JFK, RFK, MLK. Just figured everybody got assassinated. You became a leader and then you got shot.
Yeah.
It really was depressing because
it was depressing. And we had other chapters, and we're in a difficult chapter now. But I have a lot of hope. Another thing that South by Southwest exposed me to is just a lot of young people that are doing amazing things to improve the world, whether some of the people you met at the awards ceremony. And I just was astounded by how much energy and intellect there is on these world problems that sometimes seem insurmountable, but people are working on them. Really smart people are working on them. So as we wind down this wonderful conversation, I'm so happy I got to spend time with you. What is one life lesson and leadership lesson you want to leave?
Tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think many people are liars, actually, when I say that. So I'm not saying the world's a liar, but we spin and we evade and we don't want to, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I don't want to, just tell the truth. Just tell it like you see it, but also, and when you tell the truth, people don't wonder, they don't wonder. Well, they probably still always wonder if you're the boss, but in life, with your mate, with your children, with your friends, it's, don't worry about telling the truth. The truth will set you free, as they say.
And any additional wisdom around leadership or anything else you want to share with us?
Tell the truth.
It works for everything.
Well, what's the insight of telling the truth? But we spend a lot of time worried. And that's the thing on the mental health piece. And, it's for good reason. You worry about what will happen if I tell how I'm feeling now, or if I'm telling the truth about a situation or a challenging situation. Let's not share that. That's going to stress everyone out. Or let's not, we're going to look bad. And whether it's your, listen, in relationships, takes a while to learn that you just tell the truth. And, because if you're worried that someone isn't going to love you as much, or someone isn't going to, be your friend, or they won't lead you, well, they might as well love the truth about you. They might as well be a friend of the truth. We fear sharing the truth. Men, especially, we're not taught that. When we're boys, you get your butt kicked telling the truth. You just do. And so, and I can't speak for girls, might be the same, but as a young boy, it's like, I'm going to keep that to myself. I don't want to look like a wuss, or I don't want to look like, and so you learn year after year after year to not do that. And that's what I worry about young men today, because leaders are learning that the better to always profess your perfection, profess, your greatness. That's the way you lead. And for a short period of time, that it does work. But in the thousands of years of humanity, it's never worked long term. So it doesn't work in life. It doesn't work in business. Just tell the truth.
Yeah, I think it's a great motto, great advice. I think that leaders, no matter what, if you're a new leader, emerging leader, or someone more seasoned like Rick and I, even if you don't tell the truth, people will know that something's amiss. Like if you're not being transparent, you're holding back information, they'll feel it. Like, even if you don't think they will, they will.
The rumors are much
The
worse than the
rumors are
truth.
just the feeling like something's up. I don't know what it is, but something's up, right?
I do have another one that on this whole issue of compassionate leadership. Think about, don't worry about changing the world. Another saying that I've heard, from a rabbi that I listened to, he said, tend the garden you can reach.
I love that. Tend the garden you can reach.
And so,
that's lovely.
We have a few hundred employees and they have families, and I'm not a political leader that can talk to millions, and you might think you can't affect change, whether it's your family of 4 or 5 people, a party you're at, a meeting, or you happen to lead a business, or you're in a business. Just focus on tending the garden you can reach.
I love that. I've never heard that. It's beautiful. Rick, how can people learn more about the SOAR study, or you, or the Shipyard? What would you like to, how would you like people to connect with what you're up to?
We're at theshipyard.com, and the Ohio State University Medical Center has a lot of information. The program is called SOAR, SOAR, and so, but you find it on their site.
It's been wonderful spending time with you in a quiet place. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to meet you at a bar, though, still.
It was still fun. And it was fun meeting your son and my nephew. They got along. That was fun.
That was
Have
terrific.
a lovely day.
Thank you. Wonderful experience.
Okay. Thanks for listening to the Compassionate Leaders Circle podcast. It means so much to have you here with us today. Every episode is an invitation to grow together, and we hope today's insights stay with you long after this conversation ends. Be sure to keep an eye out for our next episode. We've got more inspiring stories and practical lessons on the way. Learn more about our community of change makers at compassionateleaderscircle.com.
Are you ready to start leading yourself and others with more clarity and heart? Passionate Leaders Circle Toolkit gives you access to free and low-cost assessments, learning exercises, and books steeped in love and purpose to help you become a more resilient and effective leader. And here's the best part. Research shows that leaders who lead with compassion actually see higher engagement, stronger retention, and increased revenue. Visit compassionateleaderscircle.com to explore the toolkit, our most recently published book, The Compassionate Leader's Companion, and start transforming your ability to lead others and yourself today.